I don't think anyone should be surprised by what we're seeing in British or global politics right now. We've been through a fear-induced phase which leaves a dependence on someone else fixing the problem. But we have an even bigger problem here in the UK now. The division has become so huge, where first of all, for example, the Conservative Party, they're a party of the rich, for those that want to get rich, for those who want to be famous, for those who want to create a career beyond the career of politics. These are the ones that are dividing and creating these huge gaps between rich and between poor. And when we talk about poor, we're not talking about those who are completely on the breadline, not earning anything. We're talking about everyday people. In other words, the things that should be affordable, like a house, has become a luxury because these governments have allowed developers, investors, and so on to remove any opportunity from you to own your own house. And if the opportunity is there, it's become increasingly difficult. In fact, I don't ever remember it being so difficult to just buy something like a house. It's shocking, really. So houses have now become the luxury, and the Conservative Party have become the party that want you to feel that everything is a luxury. When they talk about affordable homes, they're talking about a box, literally hundreds of square feet that you can live in, that you still cannot even afford. The shambolic, disgraceful, outrageous performance of these people is just beyond reproach. So does that mean we have to bring in somebody like the Labour government? Well, unfortunately, the Labour government stink of desperation. They stink of saying anything to anyone at any time, just on the basis it may grab another vote. Not only do they have no eloquence, they don't have any real strategy, or so it appears. And the only thing I really remember from Labour governments in the past was never any good. Even Tony Blair led us into a disastrous war where he was personally responsible for the murder of hundreds of thousands of people, and ended up being well over 1 million in Iraq, which eventually, of course, left the whole country in a shambles. But going back to Britain, you will now see Labour making all these massive claims about where they're going to spend this, how they're going to spend that, how they're going to stop this, how they're going to, if somebody says, I need a house, they say, well, we'll give you a house. If someone says, I need a job, they say, we'll give you a job. If somebody says, we need to reduce spending, they say, we'll reduce spending. So in other words, they will say anything to get the attention. So the fact is it Labour or is it Conservative? Well, it appears to me that both are as bad as each other. They are all career politicians in desperation, looking to use fear as a tool and as a weapon to win your vote. But what they do when they get in there is, well, we've seen that already. And then, of course, the Liberals. Who remembers the Liberals? Well, these days it appears the Liberals barely, well, do they exist? I mean, the problem is with liberality is destroying especially the Western world as we know it. And we saw Trudeau's almost communist version of liberality in Canada, which has reaped nothing but endless mountains of destruction. And then we can have all the smaller parties like the Green Party. Is the Green Party really that green? Is the promotion of usage of battery-powered everything really that green? I don't think so when you look at the chaos and the damage and the destruction being caused just by things like this. So what we really need is, we need to really transform, revolutionise almost the political system as we know it. We need to remove power from the politics, and we need to remind these politicians that they are public servants. The public are not serving them. These politicians seem to go into politics now with nothing apart from a huge career in their minds. The fact is, if they do, a new contract should be put together. This new contract should completely be signed and sealed to the degree where if they do anything against this social contract of a public servant, they should have to be removed immediately. And in fact, where applicable, they should have to face justice at the other end of the removal. We saw how during COVID the public were abused and used and denied and infringed and encapsulated and oppressed and locked away. And now we're finding out none of that stuff really worked. That was done by the politicians. The politicians wanted you to believe that people who have had 40 years of biological, scientific, medical exams, education and work were now completely useless. And we saw those same medical people being struck off, being removed from hospitals because their expertise was no longer expert. Then we had politicians who became experts overnight at everything and anything, and it turns out all they were doing were bleeding you dry. At the end of the day, there has to be a rephrasing and a rebuilding of the political system to hold these people accountable. They have to be accountable to you, they have to be accountable to the population, they have to be accountable globally, and they have to be removed if they go against their political service. Right now, people, we need to wake up, because the fact is none of these political societies, branches, clubs, cults, call them what you like, work anymore. It's a very different world. Are we seeing politics working in Russia right now? No, we're watching politics destroy the Russian population. And, you know, the Russian people are great people. But look what the politicians have done to them. Look what the politicians have done over here. Look how the politicians oppress the public so severely in Australia during COVID. Look what's going on in Paris right now. We have Macron actually believes that the public serve him, not he serves the public. A new contract has to be built, a new contract has to be put together, a new contract has to be stabilised and put into an actual contract. And if these people who want to take that job on, they have to sign that contract, and they have to be fully accountable. They have to be tracked, they have to be measured, they have to be seen, they have to be accountable every single week of that service. And if they start going against the terms of their service, they should ultimately be removed. Don't be fooled that Labour or Conservative or the Liberals or the Greens or the Democrats or the Socialists or anyone else is the answer. We've seen most of those guys in action, and history has proved time and time again, even with the leaning towards the communist socialist swings right now, we have seen the disastrous results they've reaped on mankind over the decades. So it's time, folks. It's time for a brand new social contract.